Here, what we talked about, but I have a little packet here for you. It has some previously submitted information. And
hopefully, have you seen this? Thank you.
Yes, that's part of it.
Okay.
That's in the back.
Very good.
What I did on the first page was give you just some accounting information. The fourth line down is the number that we get from those charges. If there was some talk previously about taking off the first unit, which is the 326, and if you did that, you'd diminish that number by 10,400. That makes sense? For the sake of any discussions you might have as far as rate increases, I basically zeroed in on the residential consumption because the commercial consumption operates through the tiers and it's a little more difficult to figure out, and this will just give you a kind of a warm and fuzzy on settling in on whatever number you might choose. I chose the residential consumption and I used 2011 numbers, which should be similar from year to year. But we essentially produced and sold 218,477,000 gallons to residential users. And the reason why I used residential users is because if you remember correctly, the tier for them is 0 to 40,000, so their rate stays common. Most people are way below that 40,000 number, so you're talking $1.95. And so that basically turns out to be 218,477 1,000 gallon units. So if you look at those numbers below, $190.95 raises that much money, $2 raises that, $2.25 that, $2.50 that, $2.75 that. That just gives you some dollars that you can kind of quickly see what you're talking about with if you raised it those increments. Not that I'm suggesting that.
What was the current? That's just straight multiplication then?
Correct.
Okay.
It's basically the dollars times that 218,477. That gets you only the revenue from residential customers, and we produce significantly, we produce more water than that, but that will give you kind of an idea that once you target in on a dollar amount, if that's what you choose to do, we can come up with some better numbers. That'll kind of give you a warm and fuzzy, I guess, is what I thought you were looking for.
Current rate per 1,000 gallons
now,
for residential.
I guess I had understood there was some discussion about eliminating this. And if
that must have come somewhere else. Okay. Yes, eliminating
that completely.
This extra charge
yes.
is just because if it's me, I own an apartment building somewhere. It only has 1 meter, even though I have 3 units in it. So I pay an additional fee because I have that apartment building.
Here's what the reason for it was.
Is that correct? What I stated? That
not quite.
Okay. Go ahead.
Quite.
So we're clear.
When the water rates were talking about being adjusted, changed, whatever you want to say, there was the theory that there was some missing revenue. In other words, an apartment building that had 4 units but only had 1 meter, you're typically missing 3 meter charges that resulted in missing revenue, as opposed to 4 homes, each one of them having a meter. So that whole multi-unit service fee was simply a gyration in numbers that tried to bring things in a more common ground, only looking at the picture financially, not necessarily looking at the fact that there are 3 meters there. So, and it was all done in a way to create some additional revenue, thereby keeping the rates at a lower amount. So that was very simple what it was.
So Jeff, it's $1.95 right now, right?
It's $1.95 per thousand.
So if you were to lose that 60,000, you would need to raise the rates up to $2.25.
Roughly, yes.
I mean, that's...
Now, you're going to get other revenue from commercial and industrial accounts, so that's not exactly the number, but it's going to, for speaking purposes.
That's raising that $60,000 difference
Correct.
in residential.
Correct.
So you're saying almost a 30% increase to make up for that?
And that was the reason why it was done. And the reason why it was done was because there was some discussion with other municipalities who had approached that from the same viewpoint, one of them being Northampton. So that's all I can tell you there.
So our residential is then about half of what we bring in, is that correct? 'Cause I have about
I think 900,000, I think is the number.
900,000,
I
okay.
would say roughly yes.
So residential right now is about half. Now, of these 326,
That number means there are
326
1,853 apartments in the borough. There are 326 account holders. The rest of that 1,853 is served through those 326 accounts, if that makes sense
That
to
makes
you.
sense to me.
Some would have 2, some might have 25, some might have whatever the size of the building is.
depending on how they do it.
So,
Now, if I build a new apartment building, if I build a brand new building,
Mhm.
are there zoning requirements of how many meters I have to have?
no.
No, so I can just install 1 meter, put shutoffs wherever I want them, and control it independently myself with just 1 meter.
Yes.
But I have to pay based on the number of units that I have in my building. I have an assessed fee because of the number of units.
Correct. And what this number was simply trying to tell you was there was some discussion, and for whatever, however you want to take it, if you had 4-unit apartments, let's just use that example, and you have 1 meter, you're still being charged 4 multi-unit service fees. So there was some discussion about why is the primary apartment, which has the meter connected to it, also paying the multi-unit service fee. That all came into the mathematics of it all, whereby those other 3 units didn't get raised to 9 or 10 or 12 or whatever to make up for not charging. But if you took away that multi-unit service fee of $8 from each one of these 326 primary units, you would lose $10,400 annually. So that was the reason why I wrote that number down.
Times $8 per quarter, correct?
Correct. And actually, that's a different fee, because that's the $8 is by the quarter. So it'd be $16 times 326 would equal that.
So it's by twice a year.
It goes by quarter, $8 per quarter, so it's 16, excuse me, 32. I'm
So
a
320.
calculator.
So 326 times that extra $32.
Correct.
So if you own an apartment unit, you pay $32 extra for each unit per year.
Basically, the way it's set up, because of the disparity of charging the primary apartment that essentially has the meter associated with it and the extra multi-unit service fee on top of that. There was some discussion about that.
I understand that. That makes some sense. I understand why it was thought about that way, because then that unit wouldn't be paying, you wouldn't be paying for the meter and also for that unit.
Correct.
Because if you would reduce to 1 unit, most people wouldn't be paying. A normal person would be cheaper.
Right. And the whole reason why it was done was simply to just, and again, not looking at the fact that a meter was there, it was to say, okay, 10 people in apartment complexes that essentially over a proportional basis use 10,000 gallons each per quarter, they're paying less per quarter for that water than 10 homes that each use 10,000 gallons. And the difference is that those homes each have a meter that the apartment complex did not have. So it is a little, admittedly, it's a little bit of a creative concept, but it's not uncommon. There are municipalities around that do use that. So I wasn't sure where you were going with all that, so that's why I kind of gave you these numbers.
No, I appreciate that, and that's the information I think we need to understand.
Now, I think the other thing that I could tell you, just for speaking purposes, and I didn't write the number down, was if you look down on your meters, we have 4,114 regular domestic meters. We have 121 inch, we have 52 inch, and we have 143-inch meter. Those larger meters, you pay more per quarter. I don't know exactly what that is, but they won't be the difference in what your revenue is should you decide to increase or adjust what you charge for your meter per quarter.
Okay.
Currently, we charge $13.55 for a 5/8 meter. That's what we currently charge. So if you were to tabulate your water bill and you were a resident that used 10,000 gallons of water per quarter, you would pay $13.55 for the meter plus 10 times $1.95, combine those numbers together and they make your water bill. So there was some discussion about adjusting the meter charge as well, maybe make it at 15 or 14 or whatever, but by simple math, by the 4,000 meters, you'll be able to see what kind of a financial impact you would have is theirs also. And basically telling you there is money that would be changed here, but not significantly so, if you understand what I'm saying, with the other meters.
Yes, I know what you're saying.
So in the rest of the packet, I had just included the sheet that I had prepared previously, which is this, and then I had included some information that Tom Costa had given you.
Yes.
And so if any of it you want to discuss, I just included it for you all.
I appreciate that. No, I think this first page is what I needed. Are there other questions here? Just so everybody's clear on it. We have to talk about what we want to do to.
I mean, there were several thoughts as this thing has been bounced around. And one of them, I know what I've heard is raise the meter rates, possibly raise the water rates, possibly eliminate that first unit that's hooked with a meter with the multi-unit fee. And so there was no magic about any of it. It was just a matter of trying to balance the revenues and keep the rates as low as possible. That was really the gist.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the correct issue. I don't know if anybody has any strong feelings. I don't personally like the paying for having a charge because you have an extra unit. I don't know that you're, and I understand why. It at least makes sense to me why. It doesn't make sense to me to have to pay for something that doesn't exist, though.
It doesn't, and when we were going through the mathematics of it, it was simply starting at 550, 6, 8, 9, and settling into a number that made it the most fair. So if you took away that one unit, would you adjust the other units to make up for that 8, or would you just let that go? So I think the thought was, it was kind of Mox Nix. Either you charge the other units a little bit more, or you keep the number the same, and even though it looks a little weird, it's all, I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Do you think we need to assess multi-unit accounts more than a regular resident? Is there a reason?
There is no reason.
There is an argument.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily sure that I believe in the argument, but from your solicitor standpoint, the reason that you can justify it is if you had to do a water shut-off. There are extra costs involved in doing that with a rental property versus a homeowner property, whereas you can actually give the renter the opportunity to pay the bill in place of the landlord. So you would have extra costs involved. But you know, the counter argument to that, and Mr. Costa brought that up, I think, at the last committee meeting, was that you could also try to recover those costs from the landlord himself. So, you know, from a legal standpoint, you know, the justification is that there can be extra costs involved in the shut-off. But on the other side of that, you know,
Does it happen?
Does it happen? Here,
Jeff,
you know, I've asked that question. We really haven't had that problem here.
I don't know where the extra cost for shut-offs would be.
There's something legal he was telling us. There was a different legal process.
There is. No, there absolutely
being able to shut off a renter's water versus a homeowner's.
There absolutely is.
It's time frame.
It's time frame, okay.
It's time frame and legal
Notification.
costs, notification costs and labor costs and.
But the other side of the coin too is that, you know, when you look at the, you know, the functionality of it through the year, do you have the same amount of time? In my mind, I believe the meter charge, in theory, was set up not only as a revenue generator, but as a way to say, okay, we have to replace these meters at some time. So this money, in a roundabout way, is earmarked towards meter repair, replacement.
But we don't have, yeah. No, I understand.
So it's a
that they
little
create
weird,
that, yeah.
you know, it is a valid
And
thing to
but it
talk
would
about.
make sense in my mind to charge per meter, because you're not replacing,
Right.
you're not charging somebody for a meter that doesn't exist to then replace a meter that doesn't exist. But I understand your point. If we make more off of meters, we can theoretically put that money aside, which we didn't do, to replace those meters in the long run.
All I can tell you is, and this is, you know, this is, doesn't go to the heart of the problem, but we have a very, very, very economical water system.
Correct.
We are, you know, probably the leading community in the county as far as controlling our costs. And so, do you eliminate one and raise the other? You know, that's
You're raising your rate anyway at this point. I mean, based on your financials.
Based on the financial picture, we've got to raise water rates. It's just a matter of how much. Do you raise it enough to cover those, cover eliminating those units? Which in my mind is, I think, what we do. I don't know how anybody else feels, but I mean, I wouldn't be happy if I had to pay for something that I didn't have.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right.
You're paying a meter fee for a meter you don't have. Doesn't really, it makes more sense to me to pay by the amount of water you use.
Correct.
And it doesn't, I mean, I don't see why you have to pay more just because you have an apartment. If you have another meter, and you pay for that meter, no matter if it's an apartment or it's a house, right? Everybody, you know, the apartment building, if you build a 4-unit apartment and you put a meter on each apartment, you pay that meter fee for each meter.
I think that's their argument. It's the same amount of water flowing out of that property.
Now, we do have, and this is something that, you know, comes into play, and we have experienced this. We have had a hard time with people not paying their bill.
Charge it 4 times a year.
And we are requiring now letters from the landlords that will basically say if you know, the tenants are required to put their water in their own name. And the only way we will let them do that is if there is a letter from the landlord saying that they have an agreement that they'll cover the cost. Part of the problem is, and we've actually encountered this, is we're being very much more stringent about delinquent accounts. As you are aware of the red tag fees and all of that we're starting to go through. But here's the issue. If you're the front apartment, and you're the back apartment, or you are other apartments that are hooked on through this one meter, and you're not paying the bill's in your name, we can't shut you off without affecting
You're gonna shut me off.
the other
You
two
do.
people. And we have actually had,
You do.
that's kind of,
But a tenant can pay a bill that you can't figure out how much it is?
no, I'm saying in this particular case, the.
Because you wouldn't know my water, if her and I are,
No,
one meter.
right now, we're operating under one meter,
One
so
meter.
you're the account holder. And whether you're a tenant who has the meter in your name, which I suppose that's a wrong way to say it, you would have to be the primary owner because you wouldn't
Okay.
have the name in it for
I
those
see.
people. There are situations where the configuration makes it very awkward to shut the water off for you not paying your bill and affecting other people behind you who are fed, because sometimes the plumbing isn't right.
yeah.
And maybe as part of this, the people who are plumbed that way, maybe they should be required to change that. So that should we have to shut off an apartment, we have shut-offs in a common room that we have accessibility to be able to shut off individual apartments.
If
Either a
someone's
plumbing
allowed-
manifold or
Well, someone
something.
shouldn't be, a landlord should not be allowed to make a tenant pay a water bill if there's a shared meter. I mean, you should, I wouldn't think legally, you could make me pay
I
somebody
guess I was
else's water
wrong in
bill.
saying that. That would never be the case.
But like Mr. Costa was explaining, he has units on top of each other.
Correct.
And there's one meter that serves all of those. So
Correct.
if he runs into a problem, he's got to shut it off.
That's a
He's
little
got to
bit,
shut it off.
yes,
And
that's,
say we have a water main break, or we have a problem.
correct.
He's going to lose all of those, but I guess
Right,
that's common.
and there is
That's
the
common
legal
for
thing
people down
that
the line.
the solicitor and Shane is talking about. What I'm more talking about is the guy that's got the house, the split apartment that's been converted into apartments, and the plumbing's never been really disconnected or
You
separated.
can't force them to do that.
I wouldn't think we could force them to do that, but we shouldn't allow a tenant, You couldn't, a tenant couldn't, we shouldn't be having tenants paying other people's water bills, I guess is what I'm saying.
I guess I shouldn't have said that because I misrepresented that. In
Okay.
that situation, it wouldn't be. It would be, like, say, you live there and you bought the place and had an apartment behind you, and you're the owner, and
Yes.
you're not paying your bill.
I can
Okay.
tell you that since
And then
Jessica
tenant.
and Teresa have been here, we've had 0 shut-off threats to landlords.
Okay.
Where we've had to go above and
Okay.
beyond to the next step.
So that's something we can work with if it becomes an issue. But you're right, that's a good point. If I'm not paying my water bill, the tenant shouldn't also lose their water.
Right.
And that would be a separate.
And we've not had any shut-off notices, but we have had to make several calls to landlords about that sort of arrangement.
And that is true.
So it's not a huge problem, but that's just one wrinkle in the
Just
whole
something
thing.
that comes into play.
Oh, no.
All right, anyone have strong feelings? You have strong feelings, Mrs. Gilbert? What
No,
would
I'm
I-
gonna do some math though. I wanna look at the, what we're charging for the 5/8 inch meter.
Yeah, we have some.
Yeah, I did some math real quick.
If we raise that,
If you raise it to 14, well, first of all, at 1355, if you multiply that by 4,114 units, and then you multiply it by 4, right? Because it's 4 quarters, we charge that fee.
Correct.
It's about 223,000. If you raise that number up to $14, the number comes out to just over 230,000. If you raise it to $15, that number comes to just under 247,000. So if you were to raise from 1355 to 15, you're looking at a revenue gain of about $24,000.
And let me
And that would
tell
be
you,
basically the person be paying $1.50 times 4 more per
$6.
year, so $6 more per year.
Each one of those 5/8 meters would pay $6 more a year to raise us. Yeah, that's right, $24,000.
and there's probably one other point that actually ties into this for kind of a justification for an increase in the meter fee, not only to balance out something else, but in 2013, we're mandated to go to a low lead brass components in our system. So we are actually paying, they've changed the metallurgy of the brass body, so the cost of the meters have gone up. All our brass fittings and anything in the system that has been the normal composition is now has to be reaching a different conformity in January of 2013. So the meters are going up in cost.
What are the meter costs?
Well, right now, we don't buy, we buy new meters, but the reason why we get the price that we get for them is that we change in our old meter. So we're paying about $80 a meter
Net,
Oh.
right? That's net after the trade-in.
after the trade-in. Now, that's for the standard meter that's not gonna be the new one. They have 2 different meters available in the future. One's a plastic body Omni meter that does a bunch of other fancy stuff that we will no longer have trade-ins allowed. That's about $130 a meter, is what I have heard. The low lead meter is less, it's about $105, and we will be able to trade in our other meter, but it's gonna raise it about $10. So I would say it's gonna be like $95, the net cost for the low lead brass meter. So they're going up essentially $10 or $20 a meter.
And the brass is what we would most likely be purchasing, right?
Yeah, because I don't see the reason to, it does a lot of other stuff that we would never,
The plastic does.
it has some programming capabilities that we would not.
All right, we looking for a recommendation of council at this point, or are we looking for? You don't care?
no, I think we have to wait until we get a little further into the budget process.
Yeah,
to see
I
what
would-
the numbers are before we make any kind
To
of
make,
decision.
to make a
one way or
decision,
the
figure out
other.
where we need to go.
What I can end up doing for you is I'll calculate
Do some calculations.
the way that things are, what you're gonna need for next year, you know, if you change it this way, I'll put a bunch of it on paper for you.
I would like to see it with those extra unit fees just eliminated, would be my first choice.
We'll do it both ways.
I'm curious to see.
Yeah, I'll do,
I'd
well,
like
yeah, and I'll
us
show
all the
you,
figures with it in, and then with it out, with the rate increase
And then
on the
with that-
size of the meters and
with
the
that-
water.
Removing one, I'm just curious what it costs a normal, like what's it gonna cost a normal resident to do away with that?
we'll put together a spreadsheet for
And
you.
if we're losing 60,000 over 4,000 meters, that's
Well, there's multiple ways you can raise that money.
that's 15 bucks per meter, right? If I do that very simply,
Roughly.
those 4,000 meters, that's about 15 bucks for every meter.
Mhm.
It's gonna cost each person about 15 bucks more to do away with those fees
Per year.
per year. Which I don't think is unreasonable to make it equitable. But we also,
The water rates
but that's
the same.
keeping, that's not changing anything
The
else,
water
which
rates
we
the
have,
same.
which we can't do.
But you can look at a combination of things. You can look at what you charge for meters, and then you can look at the price for gallons too. Yeah, we'll put together, a spreadsheet.
Okay. Very good.
Do we have that by October 10th?
Sure.
Well, that's our next meeting.
Yeah.
Right. Very good, thank you very much, Mr. Clapper, that helps
Good?
tremendously,
Yes,
yeah, that was the
Yeah.
information we
Thank you.
I
needed.
needed to see these figures.
So you're good, you can go if you'd like.
All right. Makes sense.
What do you want to do?
Thanks, Jeff.
Main Street? Okay, come up here. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you for seeing us.
Oh, sure.
My name is Ron Eichenberg, and I'm the chairperson of the Business Development Committee for Main Street Partners. You all know Terry Madison, our executive director, and of course Gene Klock.
I'm good.
You're the new Gene Clark?
Yeah.
The new and improved? Improved?
Gene Klock.
Subject to rate.
Upgrade.
First one, please.
You all know Terry and Gene very well. I just, a brief introduction to myself, that I've been on the board of the Main Street Partners for 3 years now. My day job is I'm a commercial real estate broker with the Frederick Group. And I've been doing that I've been a realtor since the mid-70s. But I'm also president of the Board of Commissioners in Lower Country Township. So I share your position as well. Matter of fact, we have a BOC meeting tomorrow night. Our budget committee is also looking at budget as you are.
Good luck.
We have our first preliminary budget meeting scheduled for early October. So we're doing exactly what you're doing, and we have people coming before us just as we're coming before you. And of course, you're familiar that Emmaus Main Street is a nonprofit 501c3, and Main Street Partners have been charged with promoting, identifying, bringing in new businesses and industry into the borough of Emmaus, and also along with that, creating a pride and awareness of the borough of Emmaus among its citizens, and hopefully helping you as council members representing your citizens and sharing with them what is being done to help promote Emmaus and help making Emmaus a better quality of life for all of its citizens. And we take that charge extremely seriously. And we're looking at 2013 as an opportunity to enhance all of that. We're looking at, we've retained Sarah Design, who is a Emmaus advertising agency. We retained them to put together a program and a plan over 3 years. And the 3-year program is really, if you give you an analogy, if you were to drop a pebble or rock into a pond, you get concentric circles going out. And that's what we're looking at with this 3-year plan. And the very small circle is strictly with the borough of Emmaus, of promoting the borough of Emmaus to its citizenry and promoting the businesses that are here, attracting new businesses, and also a program to help retain the businesses and industries that are in the borough itself. So it's a three-pronged attack for this first year. And after the first year, to develop the program to the next concentric circle, which would be out to our adjacent communities. The city of Allentown, Salisbury, Macungie, Lower Macungie. So develop that circle a little bit broader in identifying the same characteristics of Emmaus. And before I got involved with Main Street Partners, I was involved in marketing a number of different properties in Emmaus. And people always looked at Emmaus as hopefully being the next arts type community, the next New Hope type of thing. And I think that you still hear people saying that. And we like to see that happen as well. So that's the idea of getting out beyond that next third concentric circle is going out to the entire Lehigh Valley and eastern and southeastern Pennsylvania in promoting the borough for the same reasons of identifying the businesses that are here, promoting their business, helping them retain their business, and attracting new businesses into the borough. And at the same time, helping the residents themselves create an awareness and a pride in their borough. We see cars all the time with stickers on them. They've been at Stone Harbor, they've been in Vermont, they've been here and there. We've all seen these stickers in the back of the cars. We're not looking at doing stickers, but that develop the same kind of a concept. And of course, all of this requires money. And Sarah has created a budget for us for the first year for this program, and of $30,000. We're looking at administrative component of $10,000. So that's $40,000. And we're not. Our thought is that not asking the borough to create a separate line item of these dollars. However, looking at the business privilege tax that's being collected from the businesses, and just reallocating dollars from the business privilege tax to Emmaus Partners. And actually, this creates a benefit to the businesses, which helps make your job easier in collecting that tax. Because here is a tangible item that their tax is going toward. So people hopefully will grumble a little bit less about paying a tax if there is a tangible reason or identifiable reason that they're getting for these tax dollars. So this is an opportunity to create a better relationship between council and the businesses of here are tax dollars which we're using to promote businesses in the Emmaus Borough, attract new customers, create an awareness, and bring more people into the borough itself to do business. And new businesses create a synergy. And the Main Street has been really active in all this. We've met with Shane to develop a LERTA program to identify industrial areas within the borough that can benefit from the LERTA program. You saw a brief presentation by Howard Lieberman on that. So we were the impetus between getting that going. So these are things that the Main Street Partners are truly doing. We have the plan for you. I know we're not going to look over it today. We're not going to bore you with looking over the details. I've summarized it. I'm going to ask Terry and Jean to input here anything that I may have missed with this presentation on this segment of what we want to talk about. Terry, Jean?
First of all, I know you're going to need time to read over this proposal, so just to kind of go through it and summarize it for you a little bit. As Ron stated, the primary focus here is to attract and retain businesses and keep the community spirit alive. So using the dollars that are already collected from the businesses and turning it back into a benefit for the businesses seems to be a win-win situation. Obviously, as he also mentioned, this is a 3-year project that we're looking at, with the intent, of course, to have it continue into forever. But looking over at page 3, where it kind of outlines the activities, this gets into a little bit of the meat and the bones of it.
Let me interrupt just a second, please. That through the whole process here, Borough Council will receive a report of what we're doing, so that you will see how the dollars that are being invested in this program are being allocated and utilized. Sorry.
No, it would be like any other monies that we receive for closeout reports at the end of the year, showing invoices paid. Anyway, if you look at the first year, looking down under the perspective column, as Ron had mentioned, the focus is going to be on what's good for us. So, keeping focused on Emmaus itself, Emmaus proper, and building a sense of identity, concentrating on spending on building visible expressions of identity, creating basic business recruitment literature involving the involving the citizens. Here we go. And throughout the rest of the activities. But year 2, we're going to try to broaden it out throughout the Lehigh Valley. And as Ron mentioned, year 3, we're going to look at the southwest or southeastern part of Pennsylvania and into New Jersey if possible. Over on page 4, to give you an idea of what the Sayers had come up with, there are certain elements to the campaign that they thought would be really important. And the first would be the campaign literature. We need to get the community aware of what the campaign is going to be. So there's postcards that would go out to all the residents, looking for their buy-in, getting them committed to the whole concept. Hopefully at that point would have a tagline that we could use and get everybody to start using the tagline in their conversation. And then with the brochures would go to the businesses, and that would have a little bit more detail. It would be more descriptive of what their benefits are going to be from participating in the program. Also creating a prospect kit for recruiting new businesses with something we've always been hoping to get done, and it seems to change year after year what elements need to go into it. So we want to really focus on getting that completed and out to the right people that need to use it. The street banners, we're actually looking at pole banners. The ones we have up now that Jeff was alluding to a little bit earlier, having those changed out with something new and vibrant and, again, carrying through the branding logo or tagline that we want to use. Concentrated advertising in the East Penn Press every month, have something in there every single month. Now the tagline would remain the same, the branding would remain the same, but the focus could shift depending on what's happening in the community that month. And then using, Lehigh Valley Business, which used to be Eastern PA Business Journal, I think that's what it was. That would be a nice business-oriented campaign avenue for us to do, and we've run 2 ads in that every year. Promotional items that they have suggested, and these are just suggestions at this point, but the promotional items would be the goodwill pieces that we would give people when they visited the community, things that are not going to bear any cost to the businesses. This is all going to be included in this proposal. The wooden goodwill tokens, we've all seen those little wooden nickels that you get from different fairs and festivals that you go to. So you produce 50,000 of those and you distribute them throughout the borough and have people give their shoppers a take-home item. It's just a little thing, a little token, but it's something they can have. The leave behind cards, the ambassador cards. I'm sorry, I'm going on way too much. All right, so there are several different things that they propose to use. Any other ideas? Those are just other ideas that are thrown on the paper for us to look at.
So they want $30,000 to print up some things and hand them out.
This is their soft cost and also what the materials will cost as well.
And so their cost of designing,
Cost of
producing,
designing and then the hard
and
cost of
sending out.
materials.
Okay, now, I've lived through Village, always lived in Emmaus. Born and raised here, always been a part of it. I don't shop downtown. There's nothing for me to shop downtown for. Well, what would I shop downtown for? I'm a good Dutchman. What would I go downtown for?
Hardware store, you have a bike
Home
shop.
Depot's cheaper. I mean, I'll stop in it once if I have to spend $3 to $5, but if I have to spend $40, I'm going to Home Depot because I'm going to save 10. to be completely honest with you. If I need paint, I don't go to Bus. It's too expensive. I'm a teacher. I don't have a whole lot of money. There is nothing for me to shop for downtown. Emma's a very good friend of ours, but if I need a gift, I don't go to Emma. It's too expensive. I used to go to a used bookstore. It's not here anymore. The bakery's too expensive. Honest to God, I don't shop in downtown Emmaus. There's nothing for me to shop for. When I grew up, there was a 5 and 10. There was a market. There were things. I go to the bank downtown because I need to go to the bank. But I don't.
You're exactly the person we need to.
You need to have something down there for me to go to. You need to have a market. You need to have. I don't like going to CVS on 7th Street. I don't like going to a chain. I wish Tom was still downtown with the Top Terry. I'd go to him. But there is nothing. I don't buy knobs for my cabinets. I'm not redoing my kitchen. I'm not buying the things that are downtown. I'm not buying scarves for my wife. I'm not buying jewelry for my wife. I'm past that. I bought my ring from Eric when he was downtown. I don't have money to do those things, so I need everyday things. If there was a market downtown with produce, I'd be in there every day. I need that every day.
This is not downtown specific.
Okay.
It's borough-wide.
Right.
So you shop at Weis or Rite Aid or?
Sure, but they have all their own marketing. They don't need our taxpayers to support their marketing.
But this is,
We're
with all
selling
due
the
respect,
borough.
Ryan, these are the things that we want to try and attract to Emmaus so that we bring people like you to shop downtown.
No, I agree, but you've got to
And-
convince me
and
how you're
also-
going to do that.
And also, well, that's part of what this program is all about, and it's also to bring people from outside the area who like the downtown atmosphere, who like walking downtown. You know, people drive to New Hope just to
Absolutely.
shop New Hope.
Absolutely.
So why couldn't we have the same kind of atmosphere in Emmaus?
Because we don't have shops like New Hope has.
Well,
we don't sell the things that New Hope sells.
That's the part of this program to help attract those type of businesses.
But this,
And,
this
you
year
know-
one's gonna cost me, I'm chair of budget and finance, I've got to convince everybody on council, this is what we have to pay for. But this isn't going to get me those businesses. I mean, there's nothing in here about working with landlords to make it affordable. There's nothing in here about working with the people that own the buildings to make the space affordable to the businesses we want, about recruiting those businesses. I mean, we need to recruit something that people will go to. And I don't mean to be rude, and I might be
No.
a little too passionate, and I don't mean to hurt feelings, because I know you work very hard at what you do. I just want you to see my perspective. I'm born and raised here. I've lived here all my life.
No.
We don't go downtown.
No,
My wife nor I shop downtown.
There's no hard feelings here, Brian. This is strictly business, so it's nothing personal.
And this is not cast in stone.
No.
All right, this is an idea.
No, I understand your idea, and it's a good idea, and you're going for the right thing with the
But
business
it's a
privilege tax.
marketing
Right.
campaign, more than a business recruitment and development
Right.
campaign. I mean, we have other committees that are working on that, but this is more, the focus is more of a marketing.
But what are we marketing? Like, if I'm going to tell someone to come downtown to Emmaus to shop, what am I going to tell them to shop? Where do I tell them to go and what to buy?
There's some really unique shops.
Like what?
We have 2 new dress shops for women. I mean, there was a big cry for women's clothing in
Okay.
town. We have 2 new shops for that. The yarn shop, now while it's not for us, her business is going to the fact that
I agree.
to the point she's expanding.
I agree with that.
Exciting
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, that you're right. You're right.
So there's a lot of things that I think,
Now that's a certain section of the population.
Okay.
That's your wife who's going to go to those places, not my wife. So I understand marketing towards them, but towards me and my family, I mean, I can't send my son downtown to get anything.
use a theater.
I do at times, yeah. Yeah, that's something I would do. Because it's cheap. Because it's cheaper than going to AMC. If AMC was cheaper, I'd drive to AMC. That's me. I'm a Pennsylvania Dutchman. I have the mentality that it's got to be the best deal. A lot of these people still have that mentality that I have. They're not going to spend more just because it's here. The guy that owned my house that still lives in Emmaus drove 20 miles out of his way to get gas because it was 5 cents cheaper. He probably lost all that money on the way, but that was his but that was his mentality, and that's the mentality of a lot of Emmaus. That's the mentality of a lot of the
A
people
lot
I'm
of that's
representing.
changing though, Brian. We're seeing a lot of new people in town. I
Right.
understand the old school, but there's a new atmosphere in town, some of which we like, some of that we don't like. But I would love to have a market in my building.
No, I agree with Gene. I know that. I know you have for a long time, and I don't know how you.
And that's another subject we don't.
Yeah, but I don't. And,
I don't know if you want to go there
We don't,
today.
yeah, but I was tempted to go there, but I
Yeah,
didn't want to do it
but-
today.
And we've had people look at it.
I would be very hesitant to say, I mean, it's the toughest sell I've ever heard, and I'm impressed that you even came to us with this, to ask for $40,000. I mean, that's the toughest sell ever, because you know where we're at budget-wise. I mean, you know where we sit, you know what we have.
That's
But-
what I was going to interrupt to say. That's why we suggest an allocation of dollars as opposed to new dollars or taking additional tax dollars. And the businesses are already paying these taxes.
I agree.
And so every business grumbles and complains, well, what am I getting for my tax dollars? Well, here is something that we can say, here's something they're getting for their tax dollars. Here's a promotional program that's going to create synergism and create additional identification and ideas for people to come to Emmaus and go to their stores and businesses.
Now, first thing says brand marketing.
Yes.
What is brand marketing? What does that mean?
We're creating, well, brand marketing is creating a brand for the borough of Emmaus.
Okay.
What is that? No,
So we're
Emmaus is the brand. Just like Nike.
So the brand already exists. We're not going to create
No.
an idea for Emmaus and say, this is what Emmaus is, so come to Emmaus because we're this. We're just going to say, come to Emmaus because we're Emmaus.
No.
The brand is already created?
Emmaus is the brand. We're developing identification of why people should come to Emmaus.
And why should they come?
Because it's a great walkable community. It's a great downtown. We have a wonderful, beautiful triangle. We have a great downtown atmosphere. And I think people want to have that old-time feeling again. That's what people
I want it.
like.
Yeah, absolutely.
When people look at Gene's building, they see that old country storefront, and they love that. They like that feeling. They like going into Butts Paints, because they get a quality service. This is the synergism we want to create for the downtown.
I think the other part of this plan is, if you accept this philosophy of what we're trying to do, and understand if it needs to be tweaked, it needs to be tweaked. But I think what it will do is re-energize the people that we have in town, businesses, to say, wow, it's now working for us too. So if we take those dollars, and on a per capita basis, it's not much in the borough, okay? But it just says to those business people, there's something positive happening here. It creates a whole different attitude, a whole different scenario of positive thinking, as opposed to negative thinking. People say, the borough never does anything for us, blah, 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 which we know is not true, but there's still some stigma. You talk about Pennsylvania Dutch, there's still some old stigma there, that this would help change that stigma, to say that the borough does care about us, and we're going to take our business privilege taxes now that we pay and re-energize people coming to town to shop at our stores, which means our business will increase. Maybe we even stay in business as a result of this. And maybe we add some employees, which is another $52 per capita tax. You know, and those kinds of things. I think the bottom line for a lot of this, it's economic development. You know, in this economy, we need to do everything we can do to help support the businesses. And at the end of the day, this may be a small price to pay to save our town.
That's good, Gene. Thank you for that. I appreciate
And
it.
every municipality has an economic development department. You know, Main Street Partners is that economic development. We really are. And we're doing it in a multitude of different ways. And part of the economic development, I'll close with this additional request, is that, you know, we've had money supplied to us by the borough over the past number of years since we've been in existence. And unfortunately, that budget has decreased over the years. We're requesting that that amount be revitalized back to the original 15,000 level that it had been when we first became Main Street Partners, our Main Street program back then. So I know in past years we've gotten $5,000. We're very thankful for that. However, no, with all nonprofits, our funds are tough to come by. And as that economic development arm, that economic development department of the borough, we are truly working on behalf of the borough. So we truly believe that, you know, we earn that $15,000 every single day, 365 days a year. Now, just the old-fashioned Christmas. I bring my granddaughters down there every year, and they love it. I like the old town feeling of the old-fashioned Christmas. And Main Street Partners does that without any other support or any other funds for that budget.
So you could put the request, could you put it in writing, the formal request? at some
Sure,
point?
absolutely.
Just so we have it, and
Yeah,
we'll
absolutely.
present it, we'll talk about it, we'll present it to council. Anybody have any questions?
May I ask one more question? I know that you probably function the same way as we do over in Lower Cunji, that there will be initial budget presentation before council. When might that initial presentation be?
When would
Budget.
the preliminary, when would the preliminary
Yeah,
budget come
your
forth?
first budget
Yeah, those
presentation
dates
to
would be-
council.
November 5th or something like that.
First meeting in November, I think.
November 5th.
I don't have that memo with me, but I think first meeting in November and then second meeting in November would be hopefully work
Also,
out.
we have workshops, we have a council workshop on the 7th, so,
November 7th.
yeah, that's the workshop.
So it would be when we're presenting the preliminary numbers.
Hopefully we have a preliminary budget by then, correct?
So
First Wednesday.
that'll be the first presentation before council?
That would be all of council together to discuss the first budget, just
That's
independent.
the workshop meeting?
That's not the,
Those are the two workshops. We have a workshop the 24th and November 7th
yeah, the 24th is for the department heads.
with
department
department heads, and then November
The 7th
7th
would be a
again.
preliminary budget.
Would be a preliminary budget. So that's when we'd be talking about the numbers in the budget.
Okay. Because the reason I asked the question is that, myself and Gene and a number of other people within the board, would actually like to be able to address council in terms of our request. And, obviously, the earlier we do that, the better. So there's some thoughts and ideas that we can certainly, hopefully share with,
You want to do that sooner than that? Or you can, either meeting in October is fine, I would say, right? If they want to present to
Before
all council.
meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, they can come to budget and finance before council, or you can make a personal appeal.
Well, in the scheme of things, we've made our pitch here today.
Right.
Now, obviously, you're gonna be talking about it. At what point do we wanna come to council then, before you really have a chance to?
Sooner rather than later, I would think.
Okay.
Don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think sooner rather than later, tell all of council, let them know what you're thinking? I think it's good for them to know, so they have time to process, time to think, time to talk to more people about it.
So the next borough council meeting is October 1.
Yeah, because things it's a fast pace after November
It gets
7th.
jammed,
Yeah.
it gets jammed up.
Well, it becomes fast-paced very soon, everything.
Yeah.
Let's hope.
Yeah. October 1 and 15, so
which meeting would you recommend?
What works for you? I'd come October 1st if you're available. I think the sooner you let council know, the more time the community has to hear it, the better it's going to be. I think, but that's up to you. I mean, you strategize and figure out what you want.
Is this their design? Are they going to come in and explain this idea?
sure.
I'm sure they
Would
could.
that help you guys?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, but council is going to be hesitant. I mean,
Shane, you're asking me it might be better before council if we had Sarah to.
Well, I was just asking them. I understand it. One of my majors was marketing. I mean, this is a marketing plan. I see it. I get it.
Yeah.
Um,
No, we don't want to burden council with too much, as obviously you have a lot of things to do.
I'm not a marketing person,
Yeah.
so the more you teach me, the better I'm going to do at understanding.
Leanne and Jeff, you both been kind of quiet at this point.
Oh, I'm in this business, so, yeah, I understand it.
I understand you understand marketing.
I gotta look at numbers, I'm a numbers person, I gotta look at the
I've heard that
numbers.
about you, Dave, you're a numbers person.
So I wouldn't need
also, I know
anybody
you're a very
to explain it.
conservative numbers person. That's great. I think we need that in government, an element of conservatism. Any questions, thoughts that you'd like to?
Not right now, no.
I know you also like to digest things, so
Mhm.
that's good too.
When's the next budget finance
All right, before council, what, 6:45?
Yeah, but then there's
meeting?
another
October
one.
1?
Every council meeting.
We do a meeting
No, it's my
15
next one,
minutes prior to the
Oh.
start of our council.
10 and 19. 10 and 17, October 10th and 17th at 3:30 each week.
But the full council will be October 1.
October 1, everyone will be.
And there's a budget and finance meeting before that.
Mhm.
Okay. Would this be on the agenda, or would this be discussion of non-agenda items?
I don't think,
Lee, that's up to you.
if they're presenting, I don't know. unless it's a special
They're probably gonna
We
presentation.
can do it as a presentation, we can list it as a presentation if we get your request in writing prior to that October 1st meeting.
Request
We
for
can
this
list
or
it.
the request for the 15 or both?
Both.
Yeah, let's
Do it as
go.
one special presentation, and if you could have Sayer Designs here as well, that would be good.
Okay.
We'll
So
handle
get a letter
that.
into
Hey,
Shane.
Yeah, and the reason I said about Sarah is because Brian brought up, you know, his first question to you was exactly what any person that hasn't read marketing plans would ask, and that is, so
Okay.
basically they're gonna print a bunch of stuff out and mail it. You know, I mean, that's what it looks like on the face of it, and I have 6 other councilmen other than Jeff that probably have nothing to do with marketing.
I don't know if they can.
You know, so, they do need to understand it in more detail. And, I mean, I think they'll understand what you're trying to do, but, you know, I think his point at the beginning was very clear, and that was, this means nothing to me.
I think what would be ideal if you had the presentation was, if Mike's gonna do the presentation, maybe it would be better, not picture-wise, but it's difficult for some people here to understand concept. Okay, so they don't get that this is
They need a
entire
visual.
concept.
They
They
need a
need
visual.
Has it ever been done somewhere else, and how did they do it, and what was their marketing
Right.
plan, and what was their campaign behind it? I can name a whole pile of them
Kind
that have done
of
this already.
results too, as a result of.
Right, that's very
So
good.
it would
What are they
be-
gonna get for $40,000?
Right, you're right, you look at this and you're getting postcards,
It's not
brochures,
sales.
and what
You're not the
they-
salesman.
I'm not saying, I'm
No, I'm
not
kidding.
saying. No, this is how I sell to
It's
other
business.
people.
That's good, yeah.
So, I mean, they can't visualize, they
Yeah,
need
kind
to
of results.
understand what it looks like. And what it could, I'm not saying that he needs to come in here with a full marketing campaign, absolutely not. No, and I don't expect Mike to do that at all.
Sarah's very creative, they did our EAC.
Yeah, I know,
Symbol,
yeah, I know. But,
Very creative.
I mean.
And they're local.
He can, I know he can, you know, say, well, down in New Hope, they did this campaign, and this is what the campaign was, and he can show some examples of that, and then people will understand that a little better, as opposed to giving them this sheet of paper and reading it, and it doesn't really make much sense. So I think that would be good.
Very good, Steve. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Ryan, good meeting you.
All right.
Yeah, pleasure.
You, you too.
James, thank you.
As always,
As always.
Terry, we'll see you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
Thank you.
Mrs. Flourish. Probably wasn't unexpected.
No, that was left field for me too, and I
I
go
was
to
getting a
their,
request to.
I go to their monthly meetings.
To give into the loan pool. But I was gonna ask, do you have some money for a loan pool?
I kind of didn't know what I was doing today.
Anything you can tell us about this?
Anything I can tell you. Okay, yesterday, our board approved the tentative budget, which included the figure I had previously given to Shane. So this actually is our budget over the last several years.
Oh, okay.
And
Wonderful, thank you.
213, you can see.
First line item goes down.
The first line is state aid, there were significant cuts in the budget that was actually the state budget 2009, 2010, that affected us for the year of 2010. We lost access funding, this doesn't exist at the state level anymore. We've been trying to work with a very small budget, and going into 2013, we're looking at keeping it level. We are looking at tiny increases in our municipal contributions. Still looking at taking the bottom line there a lot out of fund reserve, which is a little bit scary, but sometimes that balances out by gifts and other donations that we might receive. And I really should have made more copies of this. Year to date on gifts, we're running, we had budgeted $6,000. Gifts is a totally unknown category. You don't know who's going to decide to give you something. You don't know who, this sounds awful, who's going to die, and they're going to be a big
Right.
memorial for them, this
Right.
kind of thing.
No, yeah.
So we're already $4,000 over in that respect. And I had received some additional funding from the Friends this year, which we used for, well, actually library materials, so that kind of helps. There are certain components of our budget that we have to always keep in balance. The state looks at a maintenance or increase of local government support. They look at a maintenance or increase in local spending, period. So we have to keep that in mind. We are required to spend 12% on library materials, and well, there's other requirements we have as far as hours open, number of staff, and things like that. Basically, I don't think there's a penny we have that we haven't pinched. We really try to run a really tight budget. We have people working for us who we do not offer any benefits. No. The healthcare stipend is a $100 a month donation to, or stipend to a full-time employee who is paying elsewhere for their health care. So we really have 2 people only on the staff who are getting that, because the other people aren't actually paying for health care. They're working their spousal benefits to do that. We went through all of our expense accounts to prepare this budget and tweaked them a little bit so that we were able to put a tiny increase up there in the payroll component. It comes up to a 1% increase, which is kind of embarrassing. I don't think I need to tell you that the library is a benefit to your community, that it's something that people look for. And I know there was some talk about, the different people that are becoming part of Emmaus now, and we notice a lot of them come. People that live in what you'd call your inner city of Emmaus, they're down there at the library. They come in and they get their cards. And I'm always really happy about that. So I think they probably don't have very much, but they appreciate having a library. And obviously just the fact that we offer the internet service with so many job-related things now requiring online applications and things, even the unemployment. We had this one young woman was just recently in 3 different times because she couldn't get her unemployment request to work properly. And we helped her as best we could, but she finally had to go to an office somewhere and then came back. Seemed to have worked yesterday, which we thought was really good. We were starting to feeling really bad for her. And so I don't know, what else to tell you. We've tried to provide the best that we can, as particularly trying to keep up with electronic things. And I recently received a grant from the Trexler Trust that we added some databases. One is a test prep database. It does the GED, the SAT, the ASVAB. It just does a whole bunch of them. It has practice tests and the other books and things with the test questions in it and strategies in it. So it's a really good source for people who are going to be taking those tests. And all they have to do is have a library card to use those. There's no cost to them. And that can be done from home. We also added the electronic books this year, the e-books that you can borrow them from the library and read them on your iPad, your Kindle, or whatever else, which is looking at 2 different aspects of your population: people who have all the stuff, and the other people who need to come to us to use it there. So there's that kind of thing that we're trying to do. And we of course offer lots of children's programming, and we find that there's a good need for that. We work with the local daycares, local nursery schools. We provide, well, right now we just little kids came in, 10 of them with 2 teachers this morning to get their books, and they were from the one daycare. So it's really, we're trying very hard to become a community. We are, community center. And I think one of our stellar things this fall is the fact that we're the site of the Pennsylvania German classes. So that's. I would like to hear what you have to ask me.
What happens if Upper Milford doesn't fund you? Are they allowed to not fund you first? Do you know that answer?
it's a tricky one, and we would hope that we would never get to that point. Upper Milford has become a sort of,
They have the right to not fund it.
Okay.
they can do that. If they want to do that, we can corral up enough people to make them feel very bad about wanting to do that, and we did that. The first time they gave us the big cut, which just happened like that at one of their meetings. And we got people to write to them, call them, and come to the meetings. And what happened there is that they had cut us to a point of $35,000. No, $30,000. And we said, that we found that they could do up to $35,000 without re-advertising their budget, which is, you don't want to make a municipality re-advertise their budget. So we worked with them and said, look, you guys can make $35,000, which was allowed within the thing. Okay, we're going to accept that, because if we lost them, we would be devastated. We would, you know, it's not a lot of money, but to us, it's a really big chunk of our budget. This year, we're working with them to try to raise it gradually, get it back to where it was.